A billionaire collapsed on a Manhattan sidewalk, gasping for air, begging a stranger for something money couldn't buy. A simple embrace. What happened next shattered both their worlds and proved that sometimes the richest man alive is actually the poorest. This is the story of Nathan Sterling and Clara Bennett, two broken souls who found each other in the most impossible moment. Before we dive in, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. The October wind cut through Manhattan's financial district like a knife through silk, sharp and unforgiving. Nathan Sterling stood outside the glass tower that bore his name, Sterling Tech Global, with his phone pressed against his ear so hard it hurt. His hands were shaking, actually shaking. A 32-year-old man worth $8 billion, and he couldn't keep his goddamn hands still. "Mr. Sterling, I need you to listen carefully." The hospital administrator's voice crackled through the speaker, professionally detached in that way medical people get when they deliver bad news 100 times a week. Ms. Rodriguez was struck by a delivery truck at the intersection of Park and 53rd. The paramedics are with her now, but is she alive? Nathan's voice came out strangled. "Yes, but unconscious. She's being transported to Mount Sinai. The injuries are extensive." Nathan's vision blurred. Maria Rodriguez, his son's nanny for 3 years. The woman who sang Ethan to sleep when nightmares woke him screaming for his mother. The woman who knew exactly how Ethan liked his sandwiches cut and which stuffed elephant had to sit on the left side of the bed, not the right. "Mr. Sterling, are you there?" Yeah, I'm here." He wasn't, though. His mind had already sprinted 10 steps ahead, calculating the nightmare unfolding. Ethan was at school. Pickup was in 2 hours. Nathan had wall-to-wall meetings until 6. The Tokyo investors were arriving at 7. His assistant was in Boston with the other CEO. His father lived in Monaco and hadn't spoken to him in 4 years. His mother was, well, she'd been gone longer than that, in the ways that mattered. There was nobody. The realization hit him like a fist to the solar plexus. "We'll need you to come down and—" Nathan hung up. Rude, probably. Definitely. He didn't care. The phone slipped from his fingers and clattered on the concrete. People streamed past him on both sides, suits and heels and purpose, everyone moving with somewhere to be, someone to see. The city breathed around him, indifferent and massive. His chest tightened, not now, not here. But his body didn't give a damn about timing or location. The panic attack arrived like a freight train, right on schedule, precisely when he least needed it. His lungs forgot how to expand. The air turned solid. His heart hammered against his ribs, trying to break free, trying to escape the cage of his chest. He staggered sideways, shoulder hitting the building. Someone cursed as they swerved around him. The sidewalk tilted. His vision tunneled. "Breathe," he told himself. "Just breathe, you idiot." His body ignored the command entirely. The world started going gray at the edges, sound fading to white noise. He slid down the wall, expensive suit scraping against rough stone, until he was half sitting on the cold ground. Briefcase forgotten. Phone abandoned. $8 billion, and he was dying on a sidewalk like a homeless drunk. Somewhere in the distance, or maybe right next to him, distance had lost all meaning. A woman's voice cut through the static. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" He tried to focus. Couldn't. Everything was spinning. "I think he's having a heart attack." Another voice, male, tinged with that performative concern people use when they want to seem helpful, but don't actually want to get involved. "He's too young for a heart attack." The woman again, closer now. "Sir, look at me." "Can you look at me?" Nathan forced his eyes open. The face that swam into view was pale, freckled, framed by dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Brown eyes, wide with worry. Mid-20s, maybe 30. Wearing a coffee-stained white shirt and black pants, a server's uniform. "I can't—" He gasped the words. "Can't breathe." "You're having a panic attack." Her voice was steady, matter-of-fact. No drama, no hysteria, just calm certainty. "You're not dying. It feels like you're dying, but you're not. How do you—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "I get them too." She crouched down in front of him, ignoring the people flowing around them like water around rocks. "Listen to me. You're going to breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Watch." She demonstrated, exaggerating the inhale and exhale. Nathan tried to copy her, failed. His lungs were locked up tight. "You're fighting it," she said. "Stop fighting. Just let the air come. I can't. I need. The words tumbled out fragmented, desperate. His hands clawed at his collar, trying to loosen the tie that was strangling him. The woman reached out, her fingers working the knot of his tie with quick efficiency. She pulled it free and unbuttoned the top button of his shirt. Better? Marginally. Maybe. He didn't know. What's your name? She asked. Nathan. It came out as a wheeze. Okay, Nathan. I'm Clara. You're going to be fine. She glanced up at the crowd forming around them. Does anyone have a paper bag? Nobody moved. Of course nobody moved. This was New York. People had places to be. Clara muttered something under her breath that sounded like a curse, then made a decision. Nathan, this is going to sound weird, but I need you to trust me for like 30 seconds. Can you do that? He managed a jerky nod, because what choice did he have? He was drowning on dry land. I'm going to hug you, Clara said. Pressure helps reset your nervous system. I know that sounds insane, but it works. Is that okay? He must have nodded again because suddenly she was shifting closer, and then her arms were around him. Not tentatively, not carefully. She pulled him in tight, one hand on the back of his head, the other around his shoulders, and held on. The effect was instantaneous and completely impossible. The chaos in Nathan's head simply stopped. Everything that had been screaming and spiraling and falling apart went quiet. Not silent, quiet. Like someone had turned down the volume on every catastrophic thought, every racing fear, every piece of mental static that had been eating him alive. He could breathe. Air flowed into his lungs, easy and natural, like his body had suddenly remembered how. His heart was still pounding, but the rhythm was slowing, evening out. The gray edges of his vision receded. Nathan became aware of details. The smell of coffee and vanilla, probably from the cafe Clara worked at. The warmth of another person against his chest. The steady, calm rhythm of her breathing, her hair tickling his cheek. The fact that a complete stranger was holding him together on a public sidewalk, and it was working. He didn't understand it, couldn't explain it, but for the first time in 3 years since Rebecca died, Nathan felt something that wasn't exhaustion or grief or crushing responsibility. He felt okay. They stayed like that for what might have been 10 seconds or 10 minutes. Time had gone elastic and strange. Eventually, Clara loosened her grip and pulled back, her hands moving to his shoulders. Better? She asked. Nathan stared at her. His brain had rebooted but was running slow, trying to catch up. What did you just do? Deep pressure therapy. She said it like it was obvious. My sister has anxiety. Sometimes the only thing that works is, well, that. She pulled her hands back, suddenly self-conscious. Sorry, I should have asked first. That was probably super weird. No. The word came out too fast, too intense. He tried again. No, it was, thank you. I don't know what just happened, but thank you. Clara's cheeks flushed pink. She stood up, brushing off her pants. You should probably see a doctor anyway. Panic attacks can be a sign of other stuff. I'm fine now. He wasn't lying. The attack had vanished completely, leaving behind only the familiar exhaustion he lived with daily. Nathan pushed himself to his feet, legs shaky but functional. His suit was a disaster, covered in street dirt and God knows what else. He didn't care. You sure? Because you looked pretty not fine like 2 minutes ago. I'm sure. He bent down to retrieve his phone and briefcase. The screen was cracked. Perfect. I'd like to repay you somehow. Dinner, maybe, or I'm good. Clara was already backing away, that skittish look people got when they wanted to exit a conversation but didn't know how. Just glad you're okay. Wait. Nathan pulled out his wallet, extracted every bill inside without counting. Had to be $400 or $500. He held it out. Please, take it. You probably missed work to help me. Clara's expression shuddered. I don't want your money. I didn't mean I'm late for my shift. She turned, disappearing into the crowd with practiced ease. Just another person in a city of 8 million. Nathan stood there holding cash like an idiot, watching her go. Someone bumped into him, didn't apologize. A taxi honked. The world kept moving. His phone buzzed. Ethan's school. He answered it. Mr. Sterling, this is Principal Morrison. I'm calling about Ethan. Nathan closed his eyes. What happened? He's fine, but there was an incident at lunch. Another student said something about his mother, and Ethan became very upset. He's in my office now. I think it would be best if you came to get him. Of course. Of course that would happen today, on top of everything else. I'll be there in 20 minutes, Nathan said, already walking toward where his driver had parked the car. The call with the hospital administrator. Maria in critical condition. Ethan melting down at school. The Tokyo investors arriving in 5 hours for a deal worth $200 million. His vice president demanding answers about the Singapore expansion. 47 unread emails screaming for attention. And underneath all of it, the memory of a stranger's arms around him, making everything stop. Nathan slid into the back of the Mercedes. His driver, Marcus, glanced at him in the rearview mirror. Rough day, sir? You have no idea. Nathan loosened his collar further, staring out the window as Manhattan blurred past. Take me to Ethan's school, then Mount Sinai Hospital. Clear my afternoon. The Tokyo meeting. We'll have to wait. Marcus nodded and pulled into traffic. Nathan's phone was already ringing again. He declined the call. Then the next one. And the next. For 3 years, he'd been holding everything together through sheer force of will. Raising Ethan alone, running a global company, pretending he had his shit together when he very clearly did not. He'd convinced himself he was managing, coping, surviving. One panic attack in public had shattered that illusion completely. And one hug from a total stranger had done something even more disturbing. It had shown him what peace felt like. Real peace. Not the pharmaceutical kind he'd been prescribed and never taken. Not the meditation apps his therapist recommended and he never used. Just quiet. He didn't even know her last name. Ethan was still crying when Nathan arrived at the school. His son sat in an oversized chair in Principal Morrison's office, knees pulled to his chest, face blotchy and red. 6 years old and already carrying more grief than most adults would handle in a lifetime. Daddy! Ethan launched himself across the room the moment Nathan walked in. Nathan caught him, lifting him up, despite the kid being too big for it now. Hey, buddy, I've got you. Tyler said Mommy left because she didn't love us. The words came out muffled against Nathan's shoulder. He said that's why she's not coming back. White-hot rage flashed through Nathan's chest. He forced it down, forced his voice to stay calm. Tyler is wrong, and Tyler is a little jerk. Your mom loved you more than anything in the world. Then why did she go? It was the same question Ethan had been asking for 3 years in different variations, and Nathan still didn't have a good answer. How do you explain terminal cancer to a 3-year-old? How do you make sense of something that doesn't make sense? She got sick, remember? We've talked about this. I want her back. I know, me too. Principal Morrison cleared her throat. She was a kind woman in her 50s who'd been patient with Ethan's outbursts and struggles, but Nathan could see the concern in her eyes. Mr. Sterling, I think Ethan would benefit from talking to the school counselor more regularly. These episodes are becoming more frequent. He sees a therapist twice a week already. Perhaps it's not enough. She said it gently, but the implication stung. Your kid is falling apart, and you're not fixing it fast enough. Nathan's jaw tightened. I'll handle it. Of course. I didn't mean to suggest, I know. He softened his tone. Thank you for calling me. I'm taking him home. The drive back to the penthouse was silent, except for Ethan's occasional sniffles. Nathan held his son's hand the entire time, trying to transmit comfort through touch alone because words were useless. Everything was useless. His phone buzzed constantly. He ignored it. When they got home, the penthouse felt exactly like what it was, expensive and empty. 15,000 square feet of marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows and designer furniture that nobody actually sat on. Rebecca had picked everything out back when she thought she'd have time to live here. Now it was just a mausoleum with a good view. Can I watch TV? Ethan's voice was small. Yeah, bud. Whatever you want. While Ethan settled in front of some cartoon about talking trains, Nathan made himself a drink he didn't want and stared at his phone. 17 missed calls, 63 emails, 3 voicemails from his CFO that were probably variations of, "Where the hell are you?" He should call them back. Should reschedule the Tokyo meeting. Should figure out what to do about Maria, about Ethan, about the 100 other fires burning simultaneously. Instead, he found himself thinking about Clara, the way she'd just known what to do. No hesitation, no awkwardness. She'd seen someone drowning and dove in without thinking about whether it was her job or her problem or any of the 100 excuses people made to not get involved. And that hug, Nathan had been touched by plenty of people since Rebecca died. Handshakes and backpats and his father's stiff, uncomfortable embraces on the rare occasions they saw each other. Physical contact happened, but it never meant anything. It was just gesture, performance, the motions people went through. What Clara did had been different, intentional, real. He wanted to feel it again. The thought arrived unbidden and unwelcome. Nathan pushed it away, taking a long drink. This was ridiculous. He didn't know this woman. She'd helped him through a panic attack and left. That was the end of it. Except it wasn't, because he couldn't stop thinking about it. His phone buzzed again. This time it was the hospital. Nathan answered. Mr. Sterling, this is Dr. Okonkwo from Mount Sinai. I'm calling about Maria Rodriguez. Nathan's stomach dropped. How is she? Stable but critical. She has multiple fractures, internal bleeding, and significant head trauma. We've got her in the ICU. The next 48 hours are crucial. Can I see her? Family only right now, I'm afraid. I'm the closest thing to family she has. It was true. Maria had come to New York from Puerto Rico 8 years ago. Her parents were dead. Her sister lived in San Juan. Please. Dr. Okonkwo hesitated. I'll make a note in her chart. But Mr. Sterling, you should prepare yourself. Even if she pulls through, the recovery will be long and difficult. Months, possibly years. I understand. She was asking for someone when she briefly regained consciousness. A boy? Ethan? Nathan closed his eyes. My son. She's his nanny. Ah, well, we're doing everything we can. After the call ended, Nathan stood there in his enormous kitchen, drink in hand, and felt the weight of everything crushing down again. The silence in his head that Clara had created was gone. The static was back, louder than before. He walked over to where Ethan was sprawled on the couch, already half asleep, despite it being barely 4 in the afternoon. His son's face was still tear-stained. Nathan sat down carefully, pulling Ethan into his lap. Love you, buddy, he whispered. Ethan mumbled something incoherent and burrowed closer. This was what mattered. This right here. Everything else, the company, the money, the meetings, the reputation, all of it was just noise. Ethan was the only thing that was real, but Nathan was so tired. Tired of being strong. Tired of having all the answers. Tired of pretending he could do this alone when he so clearly couldn't. Rebecca used to tell him he had a savior complex. You can't fix everything, Nathan, she'd say after he'd worked another 18-hour day, trying to solve problems that weren't his to solve. Sometimes things just are what they are. He'd never believed her. He'd always thought with enough money and enough effort and enough sheer stubborn will, any problem could be overcome. Then she got sick, and he'd learned the hard way that some things can't be fixed. Some things just take and take until there's nothing left. His phone buzzed again. Nathan looked at it, saw his assistant's name, and made a decision. He powered it off completely. For the next hour, he just sat there with his son sleeping in his arms, watching the sun set over Manhattan through windows that cost more than most people's houses. The city glittered and hummed, indifferent to his problems, indifferent to his pain. Somewhere out there, Clara was probably finishing her shift at whatever cafe or restaurant she worked at, going home to her life, whatever that looked like. Forgetting all about the panic-stricken billionaire she'd helped on the street. Nathan would never forget her. That was the problem. Gecko. 2 days later, Nathan stood in Maria's hospital room and tried to find words that didn't exist. She looked so small in the bed, hooked up to machines that beeped and hissed, doing the work her body couldn't. Her sister had arrived from San Juan the night before, a tiny woman named Carmen who'd sat by Maria's bedside for 12 straight hours, holding her hand and praying in Spanish. Mr. Sterling, Carmen stood when he entered. Her eyes were red from crying. Thank you for coming. How is she? The same. They say if she wakes up, she'll need months of physical therapy. Maybe never walk right again. Carmen's voice broke. I have to go back to San Juan in 3 days. My job, my kids. I can't stay. I'll make sure she's taken care of, Nathan said. Whatever she needs. The best doctors, the best facility. Money isn't an issue. You're a good man. Carmen squeezed his hand. Maria always said you treated her like family. Nathan didn't feel like a good man. He felt like someone who'd gotten his son's nanny nearly killed because she'd been running one of his errands, picking up dry cleaning on her way to get Ethan from school. After Carmen left to get coffee, Nathan sat in the chair she'd vacated and stared at Maria's unconscious face. She'd been the one constant in Ethan's life after Rebecca died. Patient and kind and always there. Now she was here, and Nathan had no idea how to fix it. His phone, powered back on under duress, buzzed with another message from his assistant. The Tokyo deal was falling apart. The investors wanted answers. The board wanted a meeting. Everyone wanted something. Nathan deleted the message without reading it. He'd spent the last 48 hours in a strange fog, going through the motions but not really present. Ethan had stayed home from school. Nathan had stayed home from work. They'd eaten takeout and watched movies and pretended everything was fine. It wasn't fine. Ethan kept asking about Maria. Nathan kept lying, saying she was getting better. She'd be home soon. The truth, that she might never come home, that everything was broken and wrong, felt too cruel to speak out loud. And underneath all of it, Nathan kept thinking about Clara. It was absurd, ridiculous. He'd spent maybe 10 minutes with this woman, and yet he couldn't get her out of his head. The way she'd moved without hesitation, the calm certainty in her voice, the feeling of her arms around him, making the world stop spinning. He wanted that feeling back so desperately it scared him. Nathan pulled out his phone and opened a new browser window. Then he stopped, fingers hovering over the screen. What was he going to do? Google woman named Clara who works at a cafe in Manhattan? There were probably 10,000 Claras in New York. It was a dead end, except Nathan Sterling didn't accept dead ends. He made a call. Jason, it's Nathan. I need you to do something for me. Jason Wu was his head of security, former Secret Service, now managing Sterling Tech's considerable safety apparatus. If anyone could find someone in New York, it was him. Of course, sir. What do you need? I'm looking for a woman. First name Clara, late 20s or early 30s, works as a server somewhere in Midtown. Dark hair, brown eyes, about 5'6". There was a pause. Sir, that describes roughly 50,000 people. She was near Sterling Tower on Tuesday afternoon around 2:30. She helped me when I... Nathan stopped. He wasn't about to admit to having a panic attack in public. When I had a medical episode, there might be security footage. I'll check the cameras. Jason's tone was carefully neutral, asking no questions. Anything else? That's it. Let me know what you find. After he hung up, Nathan sat back and wondered what the hell he was doing. This was creepy, right? Using his resources to track down a woman who'd made it clear she didn't want his money or his gratitude. But he needed to know she was okay. Needed to thank her properly. Needed to understand what had happened between them, whether it was real or just a product of his oxygen-deprived brain creating meaning where none existed. He needed to see her again. Maria's heart monitor beeped steadily. Outside the window, New York churned forward, indifferent and relentless. Nathan closed his eyes and remembered what peace felt like. Jason called back 3 days later while Nathan was in the middle of a conference call he wasn't paying attention to. He muted his line immediately. Tell me you found something. Clara Bennett, 30 years old, works at Mike's Diner on West 47th and also picks up shifts at a place called Rosie's Bar in Brooklyn. Lives in Sunset Park, shares an apartment with 2 roommates. Jason rattled off the information like he was reading a grocery list. Security footage confirmed she was outside Sterling Tower at 2:27 p.m. on Tuesday. Traffic camera caught her heading toward the subway afterward. Nathan's heart was doing something complicated in his chest. Send me everything. Sir, I have to ask, is this related to company security? Because if not, I'm not sure I should be, It's personal. Nathan cut him off. And confidential. Nobody hears about this. Understood. Jason didn't sound like he understood at all, but he was paid well enough not to ask questions. I'll email you the file. The conference call droned on. Someone was talking about quarterly projections. Nathan unmuted long enough to say, sounds good, at what seemed like an appropriate moment, then hung up entirely and opened Jason's email. There she was, Clara Bennett, driver's license photo, grainy but definitely her, same dark hair, same serious expression. The file included an address, work schedules for both jobs, even her sister's medical records from Kings County Hospital. Nathan stopped reading when he got to that part. Her sister was 24, currently recovering from a severe spinal injury sustained in a construction accident 6 months ago. Still in the hospital. No insurance. Medical bills approaching $200,000. That explained the 2 jobs. The exhaustion he'd seen around Clara's eyes. The coffee-stained uniform at 2 in the afternoon, probably rushing between shifts. Nathan sat back in his chair, the leather creaking under him. This woman had stopped her entire day to help a stranger having a panic attack when she was clearly drowning in her own problems. Who did that? Who had that kind of space left in them to care about someone else when their world was actively falling apart? He picked up his phone, put it down, picked it up again. This was insane. He should delete the file, forget about Clara Bennett, get back to running his company and raising his son. She'd made it clear she didn't want his money. Tracking her down after she'd explicitly walked away was the definition of crossing a line. But Nathan couldn't stop thinking about those 10 minutes on the sidewalk. The silence in his head. The feeling of being held together by someone who wasn't being paid to care, who wasn't doing it out of obligation or duty or fear. Someone who'd just seen another person in pain and decided to help. He needed to understand if it had been real. If she'd felt it too, that impossible connection, or if he'd imagined the whole thing in his oxygen-deprived state. Nathan grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator. Marcus looked surprised when Nathan told him the destination. Kings County Hospital, sir? You heard me. The drive to Brooklyn took 40 minutes in mid-morning traffic. Nathan spent it staring out the window, second-guessing every decision that had led him here. This was a terrible idea. Clara would probably call the cops. Or worse, look at him with pity, like he was some pathetic rich guy who couldn't handle being turned down. But he couldn't shake the memory of her arms around him, the way everything had just stopped. Kings County Hospital looked exactly like every public hospital Nathan had never had to use. Underfunded and overcrowded, with fluorescent lights that hummed too loud and floors that had seen better decades. The woman at the information desk directed him to the orthopedic ward on the 4th floor after checking her computer. Visiting hours end at 8, she said without looking up. Nathan took the elevator, surrounded by tired-looking people in scrubs and visitors carrying balloons and flowers. He felt absurdly out of place in his $3,000 suit. The 4th floor was quieter, just the steady beep of monitors and occasional conversation from the nurses' station. Nathan checked room numbers until he found 418. The door was half open, and there was Clara, sitting in a chair next to a hospital bed, reading aloud from a paperback novel to the young woman lying there. Nathan stopped in the doorway, suddenly uncertain. Clara's voice was soft, animated, doing different voices for the characters. The girl in the bed, her sister, obviously, same dark hair and bone structure, was laughing at something Clara had just read. "You're doing the voice wrong," the sister said. "He's supposed to sound distinguished, not like a mobster." "Distinguished IS like a mobster if you're from the right part of Jersey," Clara shot back. "Trust me on this. You've never been to Jersey. I've seen the movies. That counts." They were both smiling, and for a moment Nathan felt like an intruder witnessing something private and precious. This was a mistake. He should leave. Then Clara glanced up and saw him standing there. The smile dropped off her face like someone had flipped a switch. "What the hell?" Her sister's eyes went wide. "Who's that?" "Nobody." Clara stood up fast, the book tumbling from her lap. "He's nobody. I'll be right back." She crossed the room in 4 strides and basically shoved Nathan out into the hallway, pulling the door mostly closed behind her. Her face was flushed, angry. "Are you serious right now? You tracked me down? To a hospital?" "I just wanted to talk to you." "So you what, hired a private investigator? Had someone follow me?" Clara's voice was rising, and a nurse down the hall glanced over. She lowered it to a furious whisper. "That's insane. That's actually insane behavior." "I know." Nathan held up his hands. "I know how this looks." "Do you? Because it looks like some rich creep is stalking me." I didn't mean..." He was screwing this up catastrophically. "I'm sorry. You're right. This was a terrible idea. I'll go." He turned to leave, and Clara grabbed his arm. "Wait." Nathan stopped. Clara was staring at him with an expression he couldn't read. Anger, yes, but something else underneath it. Confusion, maybe. Or fear. "Why are you really here?" "Because I needed to see you again." "Why?" "I don't know." The honesty felt dangerous, but he was already in free fall. Might as well commit. "What you did for me the other day, it helped. More than you realize. And I wanted to thank you properly, without offering you money like an asshole." Claire's grip on his arm loosened but didn't let go. "You came all the way to Brooklyn to say thank you? Apparently. That's still pretty weird." "Yeah." Nathan managed something that might have been a smile. "I'm getting that. They stood there in the hallway, Clara still holding his arm, both of them not quite sure what happened next. A cart rattled past. Someone's phone rang in one of the rooms. How did you even find me? Clara asked finally. I'd rather not answer that. Security footage? Among other things. Jesus. She let go of his arm, crossing her own over her chest. You know that's not normal, right? Normal people don't track down strangers they met for 10 minutes. I'm aware. Are you always like this? Like what? Intense, obsessive, boundary challenged. Nathan considered the question seriously. Usually I'm worse. That surprised a laugh out of her, short and sharp. Well, at least you're honest about being a nightmare. I'm trying. Clara shook her head, but the anger had drained out of her posture. She looked tired now, the same exhaustion he'd seen on the sidewalk. Look, I appreciate the thank you or whatever this is, but you really need to go. My sister doesn't need to deal with weird billionaire drama on top of everything else. Billionaire? Nathan frowned. How did you... I Googled you after. Clara shrugged. Nathan Sterling, CEO of Sterling Tech. Worth like $8 billion according to Forbes. Nice suit, by the way. Probably costs more than my rent. It doesn't... He stopped. It probably did. You looked me up? Of course I looked you up. A guy has a panic attack in front of me and then tries to give me $500? Yeah, I Googled. She studied his face. The article said you lost your wife. I'm sorry. The sympathy in her voice was genuine, and it hit harder than Nathan expected. Thank you. Is that why you... Clara gestured vaguely. The panic attack? Part of it. It's complicated. I bet. The door to room 418 opened, and Clara's sister wheeled herself out in a chair, looking between them with undisguised curiosity. Okay, I couldn't hear anything, and it was driving me crazy. Clara, who is this? Nobody, Clara said again. Hi, nobody. I'm Sophie. The girl extended a hand to Nathan with a grin that was pure mischief. You must be pretty important if my sister's actually blushing. I'm not blushing. Clara's face was definitely red. Sure you're not. Sophie looked Nathan up and down, taking in the expensive suit and watch. Let me guess. Investment banker? Lawyer? Corporate raider? Tech, Nathan said, shaking her hand carefully. I run a software company. Oh, you're that Nathan Sterling. Sophie's eyes went huge. Holy shit. Clara, do you know who this is? Yes, Sophie, we've established that I Googled him. Sterling Tech makes like half the apps on my phone. You're famous. What are you doing at Kings County? Sophie, Clara said in a warning tone. But Nathan was looking at the wheelchair, at Sophie's legs that didn't quite sit right, at the brace visible under her hospital gown. I heard about your accident. I'm sorry. Sophie's smile dimmed. Yeah, well, construction sites are dangerous. Who knew? She tried to keep her voice light, but Nathan heard the bitterness underneath. They said you'll walk again. Eventually, maybe, if I can afford the physical therapy. Sophie wheeled herself back slightly. But hey, at least I'm not dead, right? That's what everyone keeps telling me. Sophie, Clara's voice was gentle but firm. You should get back to bed. I'm fine. You've been up for 20 minutes. Doctor said... I know what the doctor said. Frustration flashed across Sophie's face. I'm not a kid, Clara. I didn't say you were. They stared at each other, some sibling argument playing out in the silence. Finally, Sophie sighed. Fine, but only because my back hurts like hell. Clara helped her sister maneuver the wheelchair back into the room and onto the bed, a process that looked practiced and painful. Nathan stayed in the doorway, not sure if he should leave or wait. When Clara came back out, she pulled the door closed behind her with a quiet click. You're still here. Can I buy you a coffee? No. Lunch? No. Clara, look. She held up a hand. I don't know what you think is going to happen here, but I'm not interested in whatever this is. You seem like a nice guy who's going through some stuff, and I'm glad I could help, but that's where it ends. Just coffee. As friends. We're not friends. We're strangers who had a weird moment on a sidewalk. Then let's stop being strangers. Nathan knew he was pushing, could feel himself doing it, but couldn't seem to stop. One coffee. 30 minutes. If you hate every second of it, I'll leave you alone forever. Clara studied him for a long moment. Why do you care? Because when you hugged me, everything stopped. The words came out raw, unfiltered. For the first time in 3 years, my brain wasn't screaming at me. I don't understand it, and I can't explain it, but I need to know if you felt it too. Her expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering across her face before she shut it down. That's just what happens when someone grounds you during a panic attack. It's not magic. Maybe not, but I'd like to find out. You're not going to let this go, are you? Probably not. Clara muttered something under her breath that sounded like a curse. Fine. 1 coffee, but not today. I have to work in an hour and my other job after that. When? Tomorrow, 2 p.m. There's a place called Bruno's on Court Street. She pointed a finger at him. And if you show up in a limo or bring bodyguards or do anything weird, I'm walking out immediately. Deal. I mean it. Just coffee. Not a date. Not a thing. Just 2 people having a conversation. Understood. Clara shook her head like she couldn't believe what she'd just agreed to. This is a terrible idea. Probably. You're not going to suddenly be normal tomorrow, are you? Unlikely. Great. But she was almost smiling, just a little. 2 p.m. Don't be late. Nathan left before she could change her mind, his heart doing something complicated and fast in his chest. He took the elevator down, walked through the lobby, climbed into the Mercedes where Marcus was waiting. Back to the office, sir? No. Nathan pulled out his phone. I need to make a call first. He dialed his accountant. Richard, it's Nathan. I need you to do something confidential for me. Of course. There's a patient at Kings County Hospital, Sophie Bennett. I want all her medical bills paid, all of them, current and future, physical therapy, equipment, whatever she needs. Set up a trust or foundation or whatever makes it anonymous. There was a pause. Sir, that could be quite expensive. I don't care what it costs. Just make it happen. And Richard? Nobody can know this came from me. Nobody. Understood. Nathan hung up and stared out the window. Brooklyn scrolled past sun-faded buildings and corner stores and people just trying to get through the day. Somewhere in this city, Clara was probably going back to Sophie's room, probably already regretting agreeing to coffee. He should feel guilty about the medical bills, about making decisions for people who hadn't asked for his help. It was exactly the kind of savior complex Rebecca had called him out on. But he couldn't watch Sophie struggle when he had the power to fix it. And maybe, selfishly, some part of him hoped Clara would see it differently once the burden wasn't crushing her anymore. Marcus pulled into traffic. Where to now, sir? Home, Nathan said. I need to see my son. Ethan was in the living room with the temporary nanny, a nervous woman in her 50s who'd been with them for 3 days and clearly had no idea how to handle a grieving 6-year-old. Ethan was building something elaborate with blocks, ignoring her completely. How was he? Nathan asked. Fine. Quiet. He didn't eat much lunch. She gathered her things quickly, obviously relieved to be dismissed. After she left, Nathan sat down on the floor next to his son. What are you building? A hospital. Ethan didn't look up. For Maria. Nathan's chest tightened. That's nice, buddy. When is she coming home? I don't know yet. Is she going to die like Mommy? The question landed like a punch. Nathan pulled Ethan into his lap, holding on maybe too tight. No, Maria's going to be okay. She just needs time to get better. You said Mommy was going to get better. I know. But she didn't. I know, Ethan. I'm sorry. They sat there on the floor surrounded by blocks, Nathan holding his son, while Ethan cried quietly against his shoulder. Outside, the sun set over Manhattan in streaks of orange and red, beautiful and indifferent. Later, after Ethan fell asleep in Nathan's bed because he didn't want to be alone, Nathan stood at the window and thought about tomorrow, about coffee with a woman who'd already told him no, about the panic attacks that were getting worse, not better, about the company that needed him and the son who needed him more, about the feeling of being held together by someone who barely knew his name. His phone buzzed. Jason, sending a message that just said, Sir, I have concerns about this situation. Nathan deleted it and powered off the phone. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., he'd go to Bruno's. Claire would probably tell him to leave her alone. He'd probably deserve it. But for reasons he couldn't articulate, even to himself, he had to try. Because somewhere in the chaos of his life, in the impossible crush of responsibility and grief and exhaustion, Clara Bennett had given him 10 minutes of peace. And Nathan Sterling was desperate enough to chase that feeling wherever it led. The next day, Nathan arrived at Bruno's at exactly 2 p.m. wearing jeans and a regular shirt, the most normal clothes he owned. No driver, no security. Just him, trying not to look like the kind of person who had private investigators on retainer. The cafe was small and worn, the kind of place that had probably been there for 40 years serving the same strong coffee and decent sandwiches. A few people sat scattered at tables, reading or working on laptops. Nobody looked up when Nathan walked in. Clara was already there, sitting in a corner booth with 2 cups of coffee in front of her. She'd beaten him here. Nathan didn't know why that surprised him. "Hi," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You actually came." Clara pushed one of the cups toward him. "Black coffee. Seemed like your speed." "Thanks." He wrapped his hands around the cup, grateful for something to do with them. "You got here early." "I work close by. Well, one of the places I work." She studied him over the rim of her cup. "You look different." "Different how?" "Less like you're about to fire someone. More human." "I'll take that as a compliment." It wasn't really meant as one, but she was almost smiling. They sat in awkward silence for a moment. Nathan had planned this out in his head a dozen times, rehearsed what he'd say, and now every single word had evaporated. "So," Clara said finally, "you wanted to talk. Talk." "Right." Nathan took a breath. "The other day when you helped me you already thanked me. We can skip that part." "Okay, then I wanted to ask if you felt it." "Felt what?" "The connection. When you were holding me. I know how that sounds, but—" "Yeah, I felt it," Clara said it matter-of-factly, like she was commenting on the weather. It was weird. Nathan hadn't expected her to just admit it. "Weird how?" "I don't know. Like touching a live wire, except calm instead of electric, if that makes any sense." "It doesn't, but I know exactly what you mean." Clara leaned back, watching him carefully. "Look, I'm going to be honest with you because I don't have the energy to play games. I have no idea what that was. Maybe some kind of chemical thing, endorphins or whatever. Maybe we were both just having a really bad day and our brains decided to make something out of nothing. Or maybe it was real." "Real how? We don't know each other. You could be a serial killer for all I know." "I'm not a serial killer." That's exactly what a serial killer would say. She was definitely smiling now, though. "My point is, you're building this up in your head into something it's probably not. We're strangers. You were having a panic attack. I helped. That's it." "Then why did you agree to coffee?" The question caught her off guard. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." Clara's jaw set. "Fine. Because I haven't stopped thinking about it either. Happy? Not particularly. I'd rather you tell me I'm crazy and we both move on with our lives." "Why?" "Because this would be simpler." They stared at each other across the table, the conversation spiraling into territory neither of them had prepared for. Someone's phone rang at another table. The espresso machine hissed behind the counter. "Tell me about your wife," Clara said suddenly. Nathan blinked. "What?" "Your wife, Rebecca, right? The article said she died 3 years ago. Tell me about her." "Why?" "Because if we're going to do this, whatever this is, I want to know what I'm walking into." Clara's expression was serious now. "You're clearly still grieving. That's not judgment, it's observation. And I need to know if this is about me or about you looking for something you lost." The directness should have bothered him. Instead, Nathan found it refreshing. "That's fair." He took a breath, trying to figure out where to start. Rebecca she was everything I wasn't. Patient, kind. She actually cared about people, not in theory but in practice. She'd talk to anyone. The doorman, the barista, didn't matter. Everyone was interesting to her. "How did you meet?" "College. I was a jackass computer science major who thought I was smarter than everyone. She was pre-med, volunteering at a free clinic in her spare time. We got partnered for some random biology project, and she immediately called me out for being an arrogant prick." Clara laughed. "I like her already." Everyone did. That was the thing about Rebecca. She made you want to be better than you were. Nathan traced the rim of his coffee cup. "We got married too young. I was 23, building the company, working 100 hours a week. She was in residency, same thing. We barely saw each other for the first 2 years. But you made it work. Barely. Then she got pregnant, and we both thought, okay, this will slow us down. We'll figure out the balance. Except it didn't slow anything down. It just added more chaos. He paused. Ethan was 6 months old when Rebecca got diagnosed. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. They gave her 18 months. She lasted 22. Clara reached across the table and put her hand on his. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. Nathan looked at her hand on his, felt that same strange, settling feeling from the sidewalk. The last year was, I don't even know how to describe it. She was dying, and I was trying to run a company and take care of a baby, and nothing felt real, like I was watching it happen to someone else. But you got through it. Did I? The question came out sharper than he intended. I feel like I'm still in it, still waiting for things to make sense again. Clara withdrew her hand slowly. Is that what you think I am? Someone to make things make sense? I don't know what you are. Nathan met her eyes. But when you held me, I felt okay for the first time since she died. That has to mean something. Or it means you need a therapist, not a coffee date with a stranger. I have a therapist. 3 of them, actually. It doesn't help. 3? Clara raised an eyebrow. That seems excessive. 1 for me, 1 for Ethan, 1 for both of us together. My assistant schedules them like business meetings. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Welcome to my life. They fell into silence again. Clara finished her coffee, set the cup down with a deliberate click. Okay, here's the deal. I'll tell you about me, and then we're going to decide if this is something or nothing. Fair? Fair. I'm 30 years old. I work 2 jobs because my sister's medical bills are insane, and someone has to pay them. I live in an apartment with 2 roommates who are nice enough, but I barely see because I'm always working. I haven't been on a real date in 2 years because who has time? My life is small and exhausting and not remotely interesting to someone like you. Why do you assume it's not interesting? Because you're a billionaire and I'm a waitress. We live in different universes. Universes can collide. Clara shook her head, but she was smiling again. You don't give up, do you? Not really my style. I can tell. She checked her phone, grimaced. I have to get to work in 15 minutes. Can I see you again? Nathan, not a date, just another coffee, or lunch, or a walk in the park. Whatever works. Clara looked at him for a long moment, something complicated working its way across her face. You know this is a bad idea, right? Probably the worst. I'm not looking for a relationship. I can't handle that on top of everything else. Okay? And I'm definitely not interested in being some rich guy's charity case or emotional support person or whatever this is. Got it. I mean it. The second this gets weird, weirder than it already is, I'm out. Understood. So why do I get the feeling you're not hearing a single word I'm saying? Nathan smiled. I'm hearing you. I just don't believe you. Excuse me? You're sitting here telling me all the reasons this won't work, but you haven't left. You agreed to coffee. You admitted you felt the connection too. He leaned forward slightly. So either you're a masochist or some part of you wants to see where this goes. Clara opened her mouth, closed it. I really hate that you're right. So is that a yes? It's a maybe. Check back in 3 days. 3 days? I need time to think about whether I'm ready to invite this level of chaos into my life. She stood up, grabbed her jacket. And you need time to figure out if you're looking for me or for someone to fill a Rebecca-shaped hole. That's not what this is. You sure about that? Nathan wasn't sure about anything anymore. 3 days. 3 days. Clara headed for the door, then stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, I hope you figure out what you're looking for. Then she was gone, disappearing into the Brooklyn afternoon, leaving Nathan sitting alone with 2 empty coffee cups and more questions than he'd started with. He paid and left, walking the 10 blocks back to where Marcus had parked the car, trying to process what had just happened. Clara was right. This was chaos. Complicated and messy and probably doomed before it started. But for 30 minutes, sitting in a worn booth in a cafe that smelled like burnt coffee and old wood, Nathan had felt almost normal. Like just a guy talking to just a woman, no billion-dollar company or dead wife or traumatized kid in the equation. He wanted more of that. Needed it, maybe. His phone buzzed. Richard, his accountant. The Bennett matter is handled. All bills paid, trust established for ongoing care. Anonymous, as requested. Thank you. Sir, if I may ask, is this related to the woman from Brooklyn you had investigated? That's confidential, Richard. Of course. Forgive me. Nathan hung up and stared out the window. In 3 days, he'd find out if Clara would give him another chance. In the meantime, he had a company to run and a son to raise and a life to keep from falling apart. But somewhere in the back of his mind, he could still feel her arms around him. And for better or worse, Nathan Sterling wasn't ready to let that feeling go. 3 days felt like 3 weeks. Nathan threw himself into work with a focus that surprised even him, sitting through board meetings and investor calls and strategy sessions without his mind wandering to Brooklyn every 5 minutes. Well, every 10 minutes, at least. Progress. Ethan was struggling with the new nanny, another replacement who smiled too much, and didn't understand that bedtime meant 8:30, not whenever she felt like it. On the second night, Nathan came home to find his son sitting at the kitchen counter doing homework, while the nanny scrolled through her phone in the other room. "Where's Miss Jennifer?" Nathan asked, already knowing he wasn't going to like the answer. "Watching her show." Ethan didn't look up from his math worksheet. "She said I should finish my homework and not bother her." Nathan walked into the living room where Jennifer was watching some reality show at full volume. She jumped when she saw him. "Mr. Sterling, I didn't hear you come in." "Clearly, you're fired." Her face went white. "What? But My son is doing homework alone in the kitchen while you watch TV. That's not childcare, that's negligence." Nathan pulled out his phone. "I'll have my assistant send your final paycheck. Please leave." 20 minutes later, Jennifer was gone and Nathan was back to square one, sitting at the counter with Ethan while his son worked through fractions that looked wrong, but probably weren't. "Dad, you're staring." "Sorry." Nathan blinked. "Need help?" "It's third grade math. I think I can handle it." "When did you get so grown up?" Ethan shrugged, erasing something and rewriting it. "When Mom died, I guess." The casual way he said it punched the air right out of Nathan's lungs. "Buddy, it's okay. I'm not sad right now." Ethan looked up, his expression too serious for 6 years old. "But I miss Maria. The new nannies aren't the same." "I know. I'm working on getting Maria back." "You can't fix everything, Dad." Nathan stared at his son, hearing Rebecca's words coming out of Ethan's mouth. "You can't fix everything. Sometimes things just are what they are." "Maybe not," Nathan said quietly, "but I can try." "Mom used to say that's your problem. You try too hard." She was probably right. Ethan went back to his homework, and Nathan sat there feeling like the worst father in the world. His kid was growing up too fast, getting old before his time, and Nathan had no idea how to stop it, or slow it down, or make anything better. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Okay, I thought about it. You still want to do this?" Nathan's heart kicked into a higher gear. "Clara." It had to be. "Yes," he typed back. "Saturday, Prospect Park, 2 p.m. Bring your kid." He read the message 3 times. "Bring your kid." Clara wanted to meet Ethan. That felt significant, though Nathan wasn't sure why. "Who is it?" Ethan asked, looking up from his worksheet. "A friend." Nathan pocketed his phone. "Hey, want to go to the park on Saturday?" "What park?" "One in Brooklyn. It's supposed to be nice." Ethan's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Why?" "Because we need to get out of this apartment. Have fun. Remember fun?" "Is this about that lady?" Nathan froze. "What lady?" "The one you've been thinking about. You get this look on your face." Ethan demonstrated, making his eyes go distant and distracted. "I don't look like that." "You totally do. Maria noticed it too before her accident. She said you met someone." "Maria needs to mind her business." "So you did meet someone." Ethan grinned, suddenly looking like an actual kid again. "Is she nice?" "I don't really know yet." "But you want to find out." "Yeah, I guess I do." Nathan ruffled Ethan's hair, got swatted away for it. "Is that okay with you?" Ethan considered the question seriously. "Is she going to try to be my new mom?" "No. Nobody's trying to replace your mom. That's not possible." "Good, because that would be weird." "Agreed. But I still want to meet her, make sure she's not crazy or boring." Nathan laughed despite himself. "Deal. Now finish your homework before it's too late." They spent the rest of the evening together, just the two of them in the enormous penthouse that always felt too empty. Nathan helped with the math even though Ethan didn't need it, made grilled cheese for dinner because neither of them felt like anything fancy, and let his son fall asleep on the couch during a movie they'd seen 100 times. Later, after carrying Ethan to bed and tucking him in, Nathan stood at the window overlooking the city and tried to remember the last time things had felt this close to normal. Couldn't. His phone buzzed again. Clara. Fair warning, I'm bringing my sister too. If this is going to be a thing, she needs to vet you. She's protective. Nathan smiled and typed back. Understood. Looking forward to it. Don't get too excited. Sophie's mean when she wants to be. I can handle mean. We'll see. Saturday arrived cold and bright, the kind of autumn day that made New York feel almost livable. Nathan dressed Ethan in normal kid clothes, jeans and a sweatshirt, and did the same for himself, trying not to look like someone who had people to dress him. Why are you nervous? Ethan asked in the car. I'm not nervous. You've checked your phone like 10 times. That's work. No, it's not. You have your work face and your worried face. This is your worried face. Nathan put the phone away. When did you become so observant? I'm 6, not stupid. Marcus dropped them at the park entrance, and Nathan immediately spotted Clara sitting on a bench near the playground. Sophie was in a wheelchair next to her, bundled in a jacket despite the sun. They were arguing about something, Clara gesticulating while Sophie laughed. That's them? Ethan whispered. That's them. The younger one's in a wheelchair. She had an accident. Be cool about it. I'm always cool. Ethan started walking toward them before Nathan could stop him, pure confidence in every step. Clara saw them coming and stood up, her expression carefully neutral. Hi. Hi. Nathan felt awkward in a way he hadn't since high school. This is Ethan. Hey. Ethan stuck out his hand with perfect manners. Nice to meet you. Clara shook it, clearly trying not to smile. Very formal. I like it. My dad said I should make a good first impression. Did he now? He also said you helped him when he was having a panic attack, and that's why we're here. Ethan, Nathan started, but Clara was already laughing. Well, he's honest. I appreciate that. She gestured to her sister. This is Sophie. She's going to ask you uncomfortable questions and judge you, so prepare yourself. Bring it on. Ethan walked over to Sophie with zero hesitation. What happened to your legs? Ethan! Nathan was mortified, but Sophie just grinned. Construction accident, a beam fell on me. It was dramatic and terrible, and I swear a lot when I talk about it, so your dad might want to cover your ears. I've heard worse. Ethan sat down on the bench next to her wheelchair. My mom died when I was 3. People always get weird about it. Sophie's expression shifted to something softer. Yeah? That sucks. Pretty much. But at least you're not dead. That's what I keep telling myself. They started talking like they'd known each other for years. Ethan asking questions that would make most adults uncomfortable, and Sophie answering with brutal honesty. Nathan watched them, amazed. Your kid's kind of great, Clara said quietly. He has his moments. Most kids would be scared of the wheelchair, or too polite. Ethan doesn't really do polite unless I force him. Nathan turned to look at her. Thanks for suggesting this. Meeting here. I figured if we're going to do this, we should do it right. No hiding, no pretending we're people we're not. Clara shoved her hands in her pockets. Plus, Sophie threatened to murder me if I met up with you again without her there to make sure you weren't a serial killer. Still on the serial killer thing? It's a valid concern. They started walking along the path, Ethan pushing Sophie's wheelchair without being asked while she directed him toward the pond. The park was full of people enjoying the weather, joggers and dog walkers and families with kids. So, Clara said after a minute, you made it 3 days without stalking me again. I'm impressed. I wanted to. Does that count? Not really. But she was smiling. What changed your mind? You asked me to wait 3 days. I'm trying to respect boundaries. That must be hard for someone used to getting what they want immediately. Nathan considered that. It's not the worst thing I've ever done. What's the worst thing? You want the real answer or the polite one? Real. I bought out a competitor's company just to fire the CEO because he was rude to Rebecca at a conference. Nathan said it matter-of-factly. Cost me $40 million, worth every penny. Clara stopped walking. You're joking. I don't joke about petty revenge. That's insane. That's business. No, business is competition. That's psychotic billionaire behavior. Fair. Nathan kept walking and Clara hurried to catch up. Rebecca thought it was romantic. Your wife had questionable taste. She married me, so yeah, definitely. They walked in silence for a bit, watching Ethan and Sophie up ahead. The kid was doing impressions of his teachers, making Sophie laugh so hard she had to hold her stomach. "He's good with her," Clara observed. "He's good with most people when he wants to be. Gets that from his mother. What does he get from you? Stubbornness, obsessive tendencies, a complete inability to let things go." "Sounds about right." Clara glanced at him sideways. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why me? And don't give me that whole 'you made everything quiet' speech again. There has to be more to it." Nathan thought about how to answer that honestly. "You didn't treat me like I was fragile. Everyone else, my therapist, my assistant, my father, on the rare occasions we talk, they all handle me like I'm going to break. You just saw someone having a panic attack and dealt with it. No drama, no judgment, just help. That's what people do. They help." "Not in my experience." Claire looked at him for a long moment. "That's really sad. Welcome to being rich. Everyone wants something. I don't want anything from you." "I know. That's the point." They reached the pond where Ethan had stopped to feed ducks with bread Sophie apparently had in her backpack. Nathan and Clara stood watching them, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "Your sister seems better," Nathan said carefully. "Her spirits, I mean." Clara's expression shifted, became guarded. "Yeah, a weird thing happened, actually. The hospital called 3 days ago and said all her bills were paid. Just like that. Anonymous donor." Nathan kept his face neutral. "That's good news." "It's suspicious news. $200,000 doesn't just disappear. Someone paid it, and I want to know who." "Does it matter? The bills are gone." "Of course it matters. I don't like owing people. Maybe you don't owe anyone. Maybe someone just wanted to help." Clara turned to face him fully, her eyes sharp. "Nathan, did you pay my sister's medical bills?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "You're a terrible liar." "I'm an excellent liar. Built a company on it." "Business lying doesn't count." She crossed her arms. "Tell me the truth. Did you do this?" Nathan weighed his options and decided honesty was going to bite him in the ass either way. "Yes. Are you kidding me right now?" "You said you didn't want my money. I didn't give it to you. I gave it to the hospital. That's the same thing." "It's really not." "Nathan, that's insane. You can't just throw money at people's problems." "Why not? I have it. You needed it. Problem solved." Clara looked like she wanted to hit him. "That's not how this works. You don't get to make decisions for me." "I wasn't. I was making a decision for Sophie. Big difference." "Don't twist this around. You—" She stopped, took a breath. "I need a minute." She walked away, heading toward a different path. Nathan stayed put, watching Ethan throw bread at increasingly aggressive ducks. Sophie wheeled herself over. So Clara just stormed off. I'm guessing she found out about the money? "You knew? Please. I'm not stupid. Anonymous donor appears right after my sister meets a billionaire? Not exactly subtle." Sophie tilted her head. "For what it's worth, thank you. Those bills were crushing her." "Don't thank me. Your sister is about to kill me." "Nah, she'll get over it. Clara's just stubborn about accepting help." Sophie glanced toward where Clara had disappeared. "She's been taking care of me since our parents died. 8 years of putting her life on hold so I could finish school, get treatment, all of it. This is the first time she hasn't had to carry everything alone." "How did your parents die?" Nathan asked, then immediately regretted it. "Sorry, it's car accident. I was 16, Clara was 22. She became my legal guardian, dropped out of college, worked 3 jobs to keep us afloat." Sophie's voice was matter-of-fact, but Nathan heard the pain underneath. "Then I had to go and get hurt at work, pile on more debt. She never complains, but I know it's killing her." "She's tough." "She has to be. Doesn't mean she should be." Ethan ran over, out of breath. "Dad, can we get ice cream?" "It's like 50 degrees out. Ice cream doesn't have a temperature requirement." Nathan smiled despite the situation. "Fine, but after Clara gets back." "Is she mad at you?" "Very." "What did you do?" "Helped when I wasn't supposed to." Ethan considered that. "Mom used to say you do that a lot." She was right. Clara returned 10 minutes later, her expression still stormy but calmer. She looked at Nathan. "We need to talk. Alone." They walked away from the kids, far enough that they couldn't be overheard. Clara stopped under a tree that was dropping leaves like confetti. I can't accept that money, she said. Too late. It's already paid. Then unpay it, return it, whatever. Not possible. It went to the hospital, not to you. Once it's in their system, it's done. Clara's jaw clenched. You had no right. You're probably right, but I did it anyway. Why? We barely know each other. Why would you do something like that? Nathan thought about lying, about giving her some easy answer she could accept, decided against it. Because I could. Because watching you struggle with something I could fix in 5 minutes felt wrong. And because maybe some part of me hoped you'd see it as what it was. Not pity, not control, just help. Help I didn't ask for. When was the last time you asked for help? The question seemed to catch her off guard. That's not the point. It's exactly the point. You told me you worked 2 jobs to pay bills that are now gone. What are you going to do with all that time? All that money you're not spending on medical debt? I don't know, live my life? Exactly. Nathan stepped closer. I'm not trying to buy you or manipulate you or whatever you think this is. I just wanted to give you back something you shouldn't have lost in the first place. Clara stared at him, emotions warring across her face. This is too much. It's too fast and too big, and I don't know how to process it. Then don't. Just let it be what it is. And what is it? I have no idea. Nathan managed a smile. But I'd like to find out. She shook her head, but some of the anger had drained away. You're impossible. I've been told that. And stubborn. Also been told that. And you have absolutely no concept of normal boundaries. Guilty as charged. Clara sighed, long and exhausted. I should walk away right now. This whole thing is a disaster waiting to happen. Probably. But I'm not going to, am I? I hope not. They stood there under the tree, leaves falling around them, the sounds of the park distant and muffled. Nathan could see the exact moment Clara made her decision, the way her shoulders dropped and her expression shifted from angry to resigned. Okay, she said quietly. Okay, we can try this, whatever this is. Yeah, but there are rules. Number 1, no more surprise money. You want to help? You ask first. Deal. Number 2, we take this slow, like glacial slow. I'm not jumping into anything. Understood. Number 3, the second this stops feeling right, we walk away. No drama, no guilt. Just done. Agreed. Nathan held out his hand. Anything else? Clara shook it, her grip firm. Yeah, you're buying ice cream since you're apparently made of money. They walked back to where Ethan and Sophie were engaged in what looked like a serious debate about whether dolphins or sharks were cooler. The argument paused long enough for everyone to agree that ice cream was a good idea. The ice cream shop near the park entrance was crowded and loud, filled with kids and parents and the sticky sweet smell of waffle cones. They found a table outside despite the cold, Ethan and Sophie immediately comparing flavors while Clara and Nathan sat across from each other. So, Clara said, licking chocolate ice cream off her spoon. Tell me about your company. What does Sterling Tech actually do? We make software for enterprise resource planning. Sounds boring because it is. Then why do you do it? Started as a challenge. I was 23, broke, thought I could build something better than what existed. Turned out I was right. And now you're worth billions. On paper, most of it's tied up in stock. Poor you. But she was smiling. Ethan interrupted, ice cream smeared on his face. Dad, Sophie wants to know if we have a pool. We have a pool. Can she come over and see it? Nathan glanced at Clara, who looked amused. That's up to her sister. Please? Sophie gave Clara an exaggerated puppy dog look. I haven't been swimming since the accident. I miss it. You're not supposed to get your brace wet. The physical therapist said I could swim with supervision. It's good for my back. Clara sighed. You're ganging up on me. Is it working? Ethan asked hopefully. Maybe. She looked at Nathan. Is this okay? We're kind of inviting ourselves over. It's fine. More than fine. Nathan meant it. The penthouse felt less empty when it had people in it. Next Saturday? We'll see. They finished their ice cream as the sun started to set, the temperature dropping with it. Sophie was flagging, exhaustion obvious in her face, despite her trying to hide it. Clara noticed immediately. We should go. Someone needs to rest. I'm fine, Sophie protested. You're falling asleep in your wheelchair. We're going. The goodbyes were awkward and sweet, Ethan hugging Sophie like they'd been friends for years, and shaking Clara's hand again with formal politeness. Nathan walked them to where Clara's beat-up Honda was parked, helped get Sophie situated in the passenger seat while Clara folded the wheelchair. "Thank you for today," Nathan said when it was just the two of them by the car. "Thank you for the ice cream, and the medical bills I'm still mad about." "Noted." Clara hesitated, then reached out and squeezed his hand. "I meant what I said. We take this slow." "I know. But I'm glad we're trying." "Me too." She got in the car and drove away, and Nathan stood there watching until the taillights disappeared. Ethan came up beside him, slipping his small hand into Nathan's larger one. "I like them," Ethan said. "Yeah?" "Clara's nice, and Sophie's funny. She told me about the accident. It sounded scary." "I bet. Do you think Clara's going to be your girlfriend?" Nathan laughed. "I don't know, buddy. Maybe. That would be okay. If she was." They walked back to where Marcus had parked the Mercedes, Ethan chattering about ducks and ice cream flavors and whether they could really have people over next Saturday. Nathan listened with half his attention, the other half replaying the day. Clara's anger about the money. Her reluctant agreement to try whatever this was. The way she'd laughed at Ethan's terrible jokes and argued with her sister and looked at Nathan like he was just a person, not a billionaire or a CEO or any of the titles that usually came first. His phone buzzed. A text from Clara. "Sophie says you're acceptable but suspicious. High praise from her." Nathan smiled and typed back. "I'll take it. See you next Saturday. Don't be weird about it. No promises." The week that followed was chaos in the best way. Work was still insane, always was, but Nathan found himself caring less about the crisis of the day and more about getting home to Ethan. They had dinner together every night, actual conversations instead of parallel silence. The newest nanny lasted 2 days before Nathan fired her for being on her phone during pickup, but instead of immediately hiring another stranger, he decided to handle it himself for a while. It meant rearranging meetings and pissing off his assistant and basically upending his entire schedule. But Ethan's face when Nathan showed up at school pickup instead of another random adult made it worth it. "You're here," Ethan said, surprised. "I'm here. Where else would I be?" "Work. That's where you always are." The observation stung more than it should have. Not anymore, or at least not as much. They spent the afternoons together, Ethan doing homework while Nathan worked on his laptop at the kitchen counter, both of them just existing in the same space. It was mundane and ordinary, and Nathan realized he'd been missing it for years. Maria remained in the ICU, stable but not improving. Nathan visited twice, sat with Carmen while she prayed over her sister's unconscious body, and promised again that he'd handle whatever came next. The doctors were cautiously optimistic, which seemed to be medical speak for, "We have no idea what's going to happen." And through it all, Nathan texted with Clara. Nothing deep or meaningful, just small observations about their days. She sent him a photo of a customer who'd left a religious pamphlet instead of a tip. He sent her a screenshot of an email from his CFO that was accidentally sent to the entire company. She told him about Sophie's physical therapy progress. He told her about Ethan's ongoing war with his math teacher. It was normal, shockingly, impossibly normal. Saturday arrived, and Nathan spent an embarrassing amount of time making sure the penthouse didn't look like a mausoleum. He put away some of Rebecca's photos. Not all, just enough that the place didn't feel like a shrine. Bought snacks he thought Sophie might like. Made sure the pool was heated to a reasonable temperature. Ethan watched him fuss with barely concealed amusement. "You're nervous again." "I'm not nervous, I'm prepared." "Same thing." The doorbell rang at exactly 2 p.m. Nathan opened it to find Clara and Sophie, both looking slightly overwhelmed by the building's lobby. "Holy shit," Sophie breathed, staring at the floor-to-ceiling windows. "You live here?" "Language," Clara said automatically. "I'm paralyzed, not a kid. I can say shit." Nathan bit back a laugh. "Come in. Ignore the excessive wealth. I barely notice it anymore." "Liar," Clara muttered, but she was smiling. Ethan gave them the grand tour, proudly showing off his room and the game room and finally the pool on the rooftop deck. Sophie's eyes went huge when she saw it. "This is insane. There's a whole pool just for you?" "Technically it's for the whole floor, but we're the only ones who live here." Ethan shrugged like this was normal. "Want to swim?" Obviously. Clara had brought Sophie's swimsuit and helped her change in one of the bathrooms while Nathan and Ethan set up pool chairs. When they came back out, Nathan carefully didn't stare at Clara in a one-piece that was practical but still made his brain short-circuit. "Eyes up here," Clara said, amused. "Sorry, I wasn't—" "You were definitely staring." "Okay, maybe a little." They got Sophie into the pool with a lift Nathan had installed years ago and never used. The girl immediately swam off with Ethan, both of them laughing and splashing like the kids they were supposed to be. Nathan and Clara sat on the edge with their feet in the water, the October sun warm despite the temperature. "This is surreal," Clara said, watching her sister. "A month ago we were drowning in medical bills and existential dread. Now we're swimming in a billionaire's pool. Life's weird." "That's an understatement." She glanced at him. "Thank you for this. Sophie hasn't smiled this much in months. She's welcome here any time. Both of you are. Careful, we might take you up on that." "I hope you do." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the kids play. Clara's shoulder pressed against Nathan's, warm and solid. He thought about reaching for her hand and decided against it, too fast. They'd agreed on glacial. "Can I ask you something?" Clara said after a while. "Sure." "What's the end game here? Like, what do you think happens with us?" Nathan considered the question honestly. "I have no idea. I'm kind of making this up as I go." "That's not reassuring. Would you prefer a lie?" "No, I guess not." Clara pulled her feet out of the water, hugging her knees. "I just keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. For you to realize this is too complicated, or I'm not interesting enough, or whatever. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Neither do you." She looked at him, something vulnerable in her expression. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "This. You. The fact that I haven't felt this okay around someone in years." Clara's voice dropped. "I don't want to need you." "Then don't. Just want me. There's a difference." "Is there?" "I think so. Need is obligation. Want is choice." Clara was quiet for a moment. "When did you get so philosophical?" "Therapy. 3 different therapists, remember?" "Right. The sad billionaire support system." "It's not that sad." "It's pretty sad." Nathan laughed despite himself, and Clara smiled, some of the tension breaking. They stayed like that for another hour, watching Ethan and Sophie turn the pool into a splash zone, talking about nothing important and everything at once. When it was time to leave, Sophie was exhausted, but happier than Clara had seen her in months. Ethan made them promise to come back next week, and Sophie agreed immediately, already planning what games they'd play. Nathan walked them down to the car again, helped with the wheelchair again, stood in the same spot watching Clara drive away again. But this time felt different. This time felt like the start of something instead of the end. His phone buzzed. "Clara, Sophie hasn't stopped talking about your pool. You've officially ruined all other pools for her." Nathan smiled. "Good. That was the plan. Evil genius billionaire strikes again." "You have no idea." He went back upstairs to find Ethan already in pajamas, even though it was barely 6 p.m., sprawled on the couch with his favorite blanket. "Can they come over every week?" Ethan asked. "Maybe, if they want to." "They want to. I can tell." "How can you tell?" "Sophie told me. She said Clara's been happier since she met you." Ethan looked up at him seriously. "Are you happier?" Nathan sat down next to his son, pulling him close. "Yeah, buddy. I think I am." "Good. You deserve to be happy. So do you." "I'm working on it." They stayed like that, father and son on an expensive couch, in an expensive apartment, and for the first time in 3 years, Nathan felt something that might have been hope. Not the desperate, grasping kind, just the quiet certainty that maybe, possibly, things might actually get better. Outside, the city glittered in the growing dark. Inside, Nathan's phone buzzed with another text from Clara. Something about Sophie demanding swimming lessons, and was he prepared for that level of chaos? He typed back a response, already smiling. Yeah, he was prepared. The swimming lessons became a regular thing. Every Saturday, Claire and Sophie showed up at 2 p.m., and the penthouse stopped feeling like a mausoleum and started feeling like something closer to a home. Ethan and Sophie had formed an alliance based on mutual sass and a shared love of terrible puns, while Nathan and Clara orbited each other carefully, testing boundaries neither of them was quite ready to cross. 3 weeks in, Nathan made the mistake of sleeping through his alarm on a Saturday morning. He woke up to Ethan shaking his shoulder, panic in his voice. Dad, wake up! Claire's going to be here in an hour, and the pool guy didn't come yesterday, and there's leaves everywhere. Nathan squinted at the clock. 1 p.m. He'd slept for almost 12 hours straight. When was the last time that had happened? It's fine, buddy. We'll clean it. You hate cleaning the pool. I hate a lot of things. Doesn't mean I can't do them. They spent the next 45 minutes skimming leaves and checking chemicals, Ethan directing operations like a tiny general. By the time the doorbell rang, they were both soaking wet and the pool looked decent enough. Nathan opened the door, still in his wet t-shirt and old jeans, and Clara took one look at him and started laughing. What happened to you? Pool maintenance emergency. You have people for that. The people didn't show up. Nathan stepped aside to let them in. We handled it. Sophie wheeled past him, heading straight for Ethan. You look gross. You look mean, Ethan shot back. Both true statements. Clara lingered in the doorway, studying Nathan with an expression he couldn't read. You slept in. How did you? You always answer the door in nice clothes. This is the first time I've seen you look like an actual human being. She reached out and plucked a leaf out of his hair. It's a good look on you. Disheveled and wet? Relaxed, less like you're about to fire someone. Nathan caught her hand before she could pull it back, holding it gently. I've been sleeping better since we started doing this. Yeah? Claire's voice softened. Yeah. Turns out having something to look forward to helps. They stood there in the doorway, her hand in his, and Nathan felt that same settling feeling from the sidewalk weeks ago, like his brain had been running at full speed for years and someone had finally pressed pause. Clara! Sophie's voice echoed from down the hall. Stop flirting and get in here. Ethan says there's a new game we have to try. Clara pulled her hand back, cheeks flushed. We should... Right, yeah. The afternoon passed in a blur of swimming and laughing, and Sophie absolutely destroying everyone at the new video game Ethan had been bragging about. Nathan ordered pizza because none of them felt like cooking, and they ate on the pool deck as the sun set over Manhattan. This is so weird, Sophie said around a mouthful of pepperoni. What is? Nathan asked. This. All of this. A month ago, Clara was working double shifts, and I was in a hospital bed wondering if I'd ever walk again. Now we're eating pizza in a penthouse with a billionaire and his kid like it's normal. Nothing about this is normal, Clara said quietly. Maybe that's okay, Nathan offered. Normal's overrated anyway. Says the guy with a rooftop pool. Fair point. Ethan had gone quiet, picking at his pizza crust. Nathan recognized that look, his son processing something he didn't know how to say. What's up, buddy? Is Clara your girlfriend now? The question dropped into the conversation like a stone in water. Sophie's eyes went wide. Clara froze mid-bite. Ethan? Nathan started, but his son wasn't done. Because if she is, that's okay. I just want to know. Clara set down her pizza, looking at Nathan with an expression that said, Your kid, you handle this. We're still figuring that out, Nathan said carefully. You've been figuring it out for a month. Some things take time. Mom always said you were bad at waiting for things. Sophie snorted, quickly tried to cover it with a cough. Clara was biting her lip, clearly trying not to laugh. Nathan sighed. Okay, you got me. Yes, I'm bad at waiting, but this is important, so I'm trying to do it right. By doing nothing, Ethan challenged. By not rushing. Looks the same to me. Out of the mouths of 6-year-olds. Nathan glanced at Clara, who was now actively avoiding his gaze. What do you think? I think your kid has opinions, Clara said. I think you're both being weird, Sophie added helpfully. Just date already. What's the worst that could happen? It could ruin everything, Clara said quietly. The honesty of it silenced everyone. Even Ethan seemed to understand the weight of what she'd just said. Then we make sure it doesn't, Nathan said. How? I have no idea, but I'd rather try and fail than never try at all. Clara looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Okay. Okay? Okay, let's do this. Officially, whatever this is. Sophie pumped her fist in the air. Finally, I was going to lock you two in a closet if this went on much longer. Seconded, Ethan said solemnly. Nathan couldn't help but smile. Did you two plan this? Maybe, they said in unison. Clara was shaking her head, but she was smiling too. We're being manipulated by children. Apparently, Nathan stood up, held out his hand. Walk with me for a minute? She took it, and they left the kids to their scheming, walking to the far end of the deck where the city spread out below them like a carpet of lights. So, Clara said, officially dating. That's a thing now. If you want it to be. I'm terrified. Me too. But I'm tired of being scared all the time. She turned to face him, and in the fading light, she looked impossibly young and impossibly tired all at once. I want to try, with you, even though it's crazy and probably doomed. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. Shut up! But she was laughing. Nathan reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Can I kiss you? Took you long enough to ask. It was soft and sweet and tasted like pizza and possibility. When they pulled apart, Clara was smiling, and Nathan felt like he could breathe properly for the first time in 3 years. That was nice, she said. Just nice? Don't fish for compliments. It's not attractive. Noted. They walked back to find Ethan and Sophie pretending they hadn't been watching. The knowing looks on both their faces made it clear they'd seen everything. So? Sophie asked innocently. So mind your business, Clara shot back. That's a yes, Ethan translated. That's a we'll see, Nathan corrected, but he was smiling. The evening wound down eventually, Sophie getting tired and Clara having an early shift the next morning. The goodbyes took forever, everyone dragging it out like they didn't want the day to end. When they were finally gone, Ethan turned to Nathan with a satisfied expression. Told you. Told me what? That you just needed to try. You overthink everything. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just started paying attention. Nathan pulled his son into a hug, squeezing maybe too tight. I love you. You know that? I know. Love you too. Ethan pulled back. So, Clara's really your girlfriend now? Yeah, I guess she is. Good. She makes you less grumpy. I'm not grumpy. You're super grumpy, but less now. It's an improvement. They cleaned up the pool deck together, Ethan chattering about school and swimming and whether they should get a dog. Normal kid stuff. Normal life stuff. Nathan let himself enjoy it, this moment of peace before everything inevitably got complicated again. His phone buzzed, a text from Clara. Sophie says I looked happy today. I can't remember the last time someone said that. Nathan smiled and typed back, Get used to it. Don't make promises you can't keep. I never do. The next few weeks were the happiest Nathan could remember since before Rebecca got sick. He and Clara fell into a rhythm. Dinners at her apartment in Brooklyn, where Nathan learned to cook normal person food, movie nights at the penthouse where Ethan and Sophie provided running commentary, stolen moments alone where they talked about everything and nothing. It wasn't perfect. Clara still worked 2 jobs, still refused to let Nathan pay for anything despite the medical bills being gone. They argued about stupid things like anyone else, where to eat, what movie to watch, whether cilantro was an acceptable herb or a crime against taste. But it was real. Messy and complicated and real. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday in November. Nathan was in a board meeting when his assistant interrupted, looking apologetic and stressed. Sir, there's a reporter from the New York Times on line 3. She's asking about your personal life. Nathan's stomach dropped. Tell her no comment. She says she's running the story with or without your input. Something about you dating a waitress from Brooklyn. The room went silent. Every board member was suddenly very interested in their phones or the ceiling or anything that wasn't Nathan's face. We'll take a 15-minute break, Nathan said, keeping his voice level. He followed his assistant out. How did they find out? I don't know, sir, but there are already photos online. You and Ms. Bennett at a restaurant in Brooklyn last week. Nathan pulled out his phone, searched his name. The photos were already there, posted by some gossip blog an hour ago. Him and Clara at the Thai place she liked, holding hands across the table. The caption read, Billionaire CEO Nathan Sterling's mystery woman identified. Brooklyn waitress Clara Bennett. Shit. Do you want me to prepare a statement? No, I need to call Clara first. He tried her cell. No answer. Tried again. Still nothing. She was probably at work, couldn't take personal calls. Nathan made a decision. Cancel the rest of my meetings. I need to handle this. Sir, the Tokyo investors are calling in an hour. Reschedule them. All of them. This is more important. He drove to Brooklyn himself, didn't wait for Marcus. The diner where Clara worked was busy with lunch rush, and he spotted her immediately, balancing 3 plates and taking an order simultaneously. She saw him walk in, and her expression went from surprise to concerned in half a second. What's wrong? We need to talk. Now. I'm working. It's important. Clara said something to another server, handed off her tables, and pulled Nathan outside into the cold November air. What happened? The media found out about us. There are photos online. The Times is running a story. Her face went pale. Photos of what? Us. Having dinner. They're calling you my mystery woman and making a big deal about you being a waitress. Oh my God. Clara leaned against the wall, looking like she might be sick. Nathan, I can't handle this. It'll blow over. These things always do. For you, maybe. You're used to this. I don't want strangers knowing my name and where I work, and she pressed her hands to her face. Sophie? Oh God, what if they go after Sophie? They won't. I'll make sure of it. How? You can't control the media. I can try. Clara looked at him, and Nathan saw fear in her eyes he'd never seen before. This is what I was afraid of. Your world bleeding into mine. We can handle this together. Can we? Because right now, I feel like I'm drowning, and you're standing on the shore telling me it's fine. The words hit harder than she probably meant them to. I need time. I need to think. She pushed past him, heading back inside. I have to finish my shift. Nathan stood on the sidewalk, feeling useless and furious. This was exactly what he'd been trying to avoid. Exactly why he'd kept his personal life private for years. The media didn't care about context or consent or people's privacy. They just wanted a story. He drove back to Manhattan, spent the afternoon fielding calls from his PR team and his investors and his father, who called from Monaco specifically to tell Nathan he was being irresponsible. Dating a waitress? Really, Nathan? What message does that send? That I'm a person who likes someone? What message should it send? That you're not thinking clearly. The board is concerned. The shareholders are concerned. The shareholders can mind their own business. The company is their business. You're the face of Sterling Tech. Everything you do reflects on us. I'm dating someone. That's not a scandal. It is when you've been a recluse for 3 years and suddenly you're photographed with someone completely inappropriate. Nathan's grip on the phone tightened. Don't call her that. I'm being realistic. She's not in your world, Nathan. This won't end well. You don't know that. I know you. You're like your mother. You see someone who needs saving, and you can't help yourself. But you can't save everyone. I'm not trying to save her, I'm just... Nathan stopped. Was he trying to save Clara, or was this something else? Think about what you're doing, his father said. Think about Ethan. He doesn't need more instability in his life. The call ended, and Nathan sat in his office staring at nothing. His father was wrong. Had to be wrong. This wasn't about saving anyone. This was about finding someone who made the world feel less heavy. But doubt crept in anyway. His phone buzzed. A text from Clara. I'm sorry for earlier. Can we talk tonight? Nathan exhaled relief. Yes. Where? Your place. After Sophie goes to sleep. Around 10? I'll be here. The hours until 10 p.m. dragged on forever. Nathan picked up Ethan from school, made dinner, helped with homework, all while checking his phone every 5 minutes. Ethan noticed, of course. You're worried about Clara. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar when it comes to feelings. Who taught you to be this perceptive? Mom. And therapy. Nathan smiled despite everything. Fair enough. Clara arrived at 10:15 looking exhausted and stressed. Nathan led her to the living room, offered her wine that she declined, and then they just sat there in awkward silence. I saw the articles, Clara said finally. All of them. They're calling me a gold digger. I'll have my lawyers... Your lawyers can't fix this. The internet has decided who I am. There's nothing you can do about that. Then we ignore it. We know the truth. Do we? Clara looked at him. Nathan, be honest. Why are you with me? Because you make me happy. But why me specifically? There are thousands of women in New York. Why the broke waitress with a disabled sister and a mountain of problems? Nathan felt like he'd been slapped. That's not why... Isn't it, though? Your father was right. I heard him, by the way. You were on speaker. You weren't supposed to hear that. But I did. And he's not wrong. I'm not your world. I don't fit in your life. You fit perfectly. I serve coffee to people like you for a living, Nathan. I split checks with my roommates and take the subway and shop at thrift stores. You have a rooftop pool and a driver and more money than I'll see in 10 lifetimes. How is this supposed to work? I don't know, but I want to figure it out. Clara stood up, started pacing. What happens when the novelty wears off? When you realize that dating someone normal is actually just boring and complicated? That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Neither do you. They stared at each other, both breathing hard, the argument spiraling into territory neither wanted to explore. I can't do this, Clara said quietly. I thought I could, but I can't. This world, your world, it's too much. Don't do this. Don't run because you're scared. I'm not running. I'm being realistic. Bullshit. You're terrified that this might actually work, so you're sabotaging it before it has a chance. Clara's eyes flashed. And you're so desperate for something to fix, someone to save, that you can't see this as a disaster waiting to happen. The words hung in the air between them, ugly and true and impossible to take back. Is that really what you think? Nathan's voice was quiet, dangerous. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know anything anymore. Clara grabbed her jacket. I need to go. Clara, wait. I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. She left, and Nathan stood in his enormous living room surrounded by expensive furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows, feeling more alone than he had in years. The next morning brought more articles, more photos, more speculation about Nathan Sterling's relationship with his inappropriate girlfriend. His phone rang constantly, investors, board members, his PR team, all demanding answers and explanations and assurances that this wouldn't affect the company. Nathan ignored all of them and focused on Ethan, who was confused and upset that Clara and Sophie hadn't come over the previous weekend. Did you have a fight? Ethan asked over breakfast. Kind of. Are you going to fix it? I don't know if I can, buddy. You always say anything can be fixed. I was wrong. Ethan looked at him seriously. Mom used to say the only things that can't be fixed are the things you stop trying to fix. Your mom was smarter than me. I know. Ethan pushed his cereal around his bowl. I miss them, Clara and Sophie. Me too. So do something about it. Nathan wanted to. Wanted to drive to Brooklyn and bang on Clara's door and demand they talk this through like adults. But some part of him worried she was right, that he was trying to save her because that's what he did, found broken things and tried to fix them. Was that what this was? Or was it something real? He didn't have an answer. 3 days passed. Then 4. Nathan threw himself into work, trying to distract himself from the Clara-shaped hole in his life. It didn't work. Everything reminded him of her, the pool where they'd spent Saturday afternoons, the Thai restaurant in Brooklyn he couldn't drive past without feeling sick, even the stupid corner of the couch where she always sat. On day 5, Sophie called him. You're an idiot, she said without preamble. Hello to you too. Clara's miserable, like not eating, crying at random times miserable. What did you do? We had a fight, she said. Nathan stopped. It doesn't matter what she said. Let me guess. She told you it wouldn't work because you're too different and she doesn't fit in your world and blah, 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 all the scared bullshit she tells herself when she's falling for someone. Pretty much. And you let her walk away? She made her choice. No, she made a scared decision. There's a difference. Sophie's voice softened. Look, I've known my sister my whole life. She's the strongest person I've ever met. She dropped everything to raise me, worked herself to the bone to keep us afloat, never complained once. But when it comes to herself, when it comes to her own happiness, she runs. Every single time. I don't know what you want me to do. Fight for her. Show her this is real. Because if you give up now, she'll convince herself she was right to push you away, and you'll both be miserable. What if she was right? What if this is just me trying to fix someone? Is it? Sophie challenged. Nathan thought about it honestly. No, I don't think so. I think I love her. Then tell her that, you moron. The call ended and Nathan sat there with his phone, Sophie's words echoing in his head. Fight for her. Show her this is real. He made a decision. The Sterling Tech Annual Gala was in 2 days, a massive event at the plaza with investors, board members, shareholders, and media from around the world. Nathan had been dreading it for months, but now it felt like an opportunity. He called his assistant. I need you to do something for me. Of course, sir. I need Clara Bennett and her sister Sophie added to the guest list for the gala. VIP tickets, best seats in the house. Sir, are you sure? Given the recent media attention, I'm sure. Make it happen. And if she declines? She won't. Nathan hoped he was right. The invitations went out that afternoon. Nathan waited for Clara to call, to text, to show up at his door and tell him he was insane. Nothing. By the night of the gala, he still hadn't heard from her. Nathan stood in his penthouse in a tuxedo he hated, staring at his reflection and wondering if he'd made a massive mistake. Ethan appeared in his doorway, already in his pajamas. You look sad. Just nervous. About the fancy party? About what I'm going to do at the fancy party. Is it going to be dramatic? Nathan smiled. Probably. Good. Drama's more interesting than boring. Ethan came over and hugged him. Good luck, Dad. Thanks, buddy. Maria will be here soon to watch you. Maria had finally been discharged from the hospital the week before, still in a wheelchair, but recovering slowly. She'd insisted on coming back to work despite Nathan telling her to take all the time she needed. The Plaza Ballroom was already packed when Nathan arrived. Crystal chandeliers, $1,000 a plate dinner, orchestra playing in the corner. All the wealth and power of New York in one room, and Nathan had never felt more out of place. He made his rounds, shaking hands and making small talk and watching the door. Clara hadn't arrived. Maybe she wasn't coming. Maybe this whole plan was... Then he saw her. Clara stood in the entrance wearing a simple black dress that probably cost a fraction of what anyone else was wearing, looking terrified and beautiful, and completely out of place. Sophie was next to her in her wheelchair, dressed in emerald green and looking equally uncomfortable. Their eyes met across the room and Nathan's heart stopped. He started walking toward her and the crowd seemed to part like they sensed something important was about to happen. By the time he reached her, everyone was watching. You came, Nathan said. You invited me to a gala in front of 1,000 people. That's either really romantic or really stupid. Clara's voice shook slightly. I haven't decided which yet. Can I talk to you, privately? Nathan. Everyone's staring. I know. That's kind of the point. He held out his hand. Clara looked at it, at him, at the room full of people watching them. Then she took it. Nathan led her to the center of the ballroom, right under the main chandelier where everyone could see them. The orchestra stopped playing. Conversations died. Even Sophie was watching with wide eyes. What are you doing? Clara whispered. Clara, something dramatic. Just go with it. Nathan turned to face the room, still holding Clara's hand. His voice carried in the sudden silence. Most of you know me as Nathan Sterling, CEO of Sterling Tech. Some of you know me as that guy whose wife died 3 years ago. A few of you know me as Ethan's dad. But none of you really know me. The room was dead silent now. For 3 years, I've been going through the motions. Running a company, raising a kid, pretending I had everything together when I was barely holding on. Then I met Clara Bennett. He looked at her, saw tears in her eyes. And she saved my life. Not metaphorically, literally. I was having a panic attack on a sidewalk, and this woman, this complete stranger, stopped everything to help me. Didn't ask for money, didn't ask for recognition, just helped because that's who she is. Nathan, you don't have to, Clara started. Yes, I do. Because the media is calling you a gold digger, and my investors are calling you inappropriate, and my father thinks I'm having some kind of crisis. He raised his voice. But they're all wrong. You're not inappropriate. You're not a gold digger. You're the best person I've ever met, and I don't care what anyone in this room thinks about that. Someone in the crowd gasped. Someone else started whispering. Nathan ignored them all. I know you're scared. I know you think you don't fit in my world, but here's the thing. I don't fit in this world either. Not really. I've been pretending for years, playing a role, being who everyone expects me to be. With you, I get to be just Nathan, not the billionaire or the CEO or the tragic widower, just me. Clara was crying now, not even trying to hide it. You're insane. Probably. But I'm insane about you. Nathan took both her hands. I'm not trying to save you, Clara. You don't need saving. You're the strongest person I know. I'm just asking you to take a chance on this, on us, in front of all these people who think they know better. The room erupted. Some people were applauding. Others looked scandalized. Nathan's CFO had his head in his hands. His father would probably disown him. The media would have a field day. Nathan didn't care about any of it. Say something, he said to Clara. She laughed through her tears. You're completely ridiculous. Is that a yes? That's a you better not make me regret this. She pulled him close, kissed him in front of everyone. I love you too, you dramatic idiot. The applause got louder. Sophie was cheering from her wheelchair. Somewhere in the crowd, Nathan heard his CFO say, "Well, there goes the stock price." But he was pretty sure the man was smiling. Nathan pulled back, wiping tears from Clara's face. So we're doing this? Really doing this? We're really doing this. Clara looked around at all the people staring at them. Even though you just announced it to like 1,000 rich people. Had to make sure you couldn't back out. Evil genius strikes again. You love it. I really do. They stayed on the dance floor as the orchestra started playing again, swaying together while the gala slowly resumed around them. Some people were still staring, still whispering, but Nathan found he didn't care anymore. Sophie wheeled over, grinning. That was the most extra thing I've ever seen. I'm so proud. Shut up, Clara said, but she was laughing. You're trending on Twitter, by the way. Multiple hashtags. This is going to be everywhere by morning. Great, Nathan said. Let them talk. And they did. The media exploded with the story. Billionaire CEO's dramatic declaration of love. The waitress who captured his heart. Speculation about whether this was real or a publicity stunt. Nathan's phone didn't stop ringing for 3 days. But he and Clara weathered it together. When reporters showed up at her diner, Nathan hired security. When internet trolls came after her online, he had his lawyers send cease and desist letters. When his board of directors called an emergency meeting to discuss his behavior, Nathan told them point blank that his personal life was none of their business, and if they didn't like it, they could find a new CEO. They didn't find a new CEO. Through it all, Clara stood her ground. She didn't quit her jobs, didn't move into the penthouse, didn't let Nathan buy her things or change who she was. She just kept being herself, strong and stubborn, and refusing to fit the mold anyone tried to force her into. And Nathan loved her more every day. 2 weeks after the gala, they were back in Prospect Park with Ethan and Sophie, feeding ducks and pretending the whole world wasn't watching. A photographer from some tabloid tried to get a photo, but security politely encouraged him to leave. Is it always going to be like this? Clara asked. Probably. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm getting used to it. She leaned against him. Besides, if you can survive meeting my sister, I can survive your weird billionaire life. Hey, Sophie protested. I'm delightful. You're a menace, Claire corrected fondly. Ethan ran over, breathless and excited. Dad, there's a really cool tree over there. Can we climb it? Absolutely not. You never let me do anything fun. Because fun usually means a trip to the emergency room with you. Clara laughed, and Nathan realized this was it. This was what happiness felt like after years of grief and exhaustion. It wasn't perfect or simple or easy, but it was real. And for Nathan Sterling, that was more than enough. Winter hit New York hard that year, the kind of cold that made you question why anyone lived in the city voluntarily. Nathan stood at his office window watching snow fall over Manhattan, his phone pressed to his ear while his lawyer droned on about shareholder concerns and image management. They're worried the relationship affects your decision-making, the lawyer was saying. My decision-making is fine. Sterling Tech's stock dropped 2% after the gala incident. It recovered in 3 days. Tell the shareholders to relax. Mr. Sterling, they're not going to relax. They want assurances that your personal life won't interfere with business. Nathan hung up without saying goodbye. He'd been doing that a lot lately, hanging up on people who thought they had a right to his private life. His assistant had stopped lecturing him about it. His phone buzzed immediately. A text from Clara. Stop hanging up on your lawyer. He called me complaining. Nathan smiled despite his irritation. He called you? Apparently I'm a person of interest now. Lucky me. Want to grab lunch? Can't. Double shift. Sophie has physical therapy and someone has to pay for it. Nathan started typing, I can pay for it, and deleted it. They'd had that argument 6 times already. Clara was adamant about maintaining her independence, even though the medical bills were technically gone. She still worked her 2 jobs, still split rent with her roommates, still refused to let Nathan buy her anything more expensive than coffee. It drove him insane. It was also one of the things he loved most about her. Dinner then? He texted. Your place. 7. I'm bringing Sophie. She wants to swim. It's December. The pool's heated. She checked. Of course she did. Nathan pocketed his phone and tried to focus on the contract in front of him. Couldn't. His mind kept drifting to Clara, to the strange life they'd built together in the 3 months since the gala. It wasn't perfect. They argued about money and time and the constant media attention, but it was theirs. His office door opened without warning. His father walked in, still wearing his coat, snow dusting his shoulders. "Richard?" Nathan didn't stand up. "This is a surprise. I was in the city, thought we should talk." "About?" "Your situation." Nathan leaned back in his chair. "If you're here to tell me to break up with Clara, you can save it. I'm not interested." Richard Sterling removed his coat carefully, draped it over a chair, and sat down uninvited. He looked older than Nathan remembered, grayer, more tired. They hadn't spoken in person since before Rebecca died. "I'm not here to tell you what to do," Richard said. "I'm here to apologize." That stopped Nathan cold. "Excuse me? I was wrong. About Clara, about your choices, about everything I said on that phone call you weren't supposed to hear." Richard's expression was unreadable. "I've been watching from Monaco, reading the articles, seeing how you've handled this. You've been happy, actually happy. I can't remember the last time I saw that." "I don't need your approval." "I know, but you have it anyway." Richard paused. "She reminds me of your mother. Not in appearance, but in spirit. Same strength, same refusal to be pushed around." Nathan didn't know what to do with that. His mother had died when he was 12, cancer, just like Rebecca. His father had responded by throwing himself into work and essentially abandoning Nathan to boarding schools and nannies. "You never talk about Mom," Nathan said. "No, I don't." Richard stood up, walked to the window. "I loved her more than anything. When she died, I thought I'd die too. Instead, I just stopped living, went through the motions, built the company bigger and bigger, thinking that would fill the hole. Did it? Not even close." Richard turned to face him. "I watched you do the same thing after Rebecca. Work yourself to death, ignore Ethan, pretend everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I should have said something, should have helped. Instead, I stayed in Monaco and judged you from a distance." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you found your way out. You let someone in, and I'm proud of you for that." Richard's voice cracked slightly. "I never could. After your mother died, I just couldn't." Nathan stood up, crossed the office, and did something he hadn't done since he was a child. He hugged his father. Richard stiffened for a moment, then hugged back. "I'm sorry," Richard said, "for being absent, for being cold, for making you feel like you had to be perfect all the time. I'm sorry, too, for shutting you out after Rebecca died." They pulled apart, both looking uncomfortable with the emotion. Richard cleared his throat. "So, this Clara, when do I get to meet her properly?" "You want to meet her?" "She's part of your life, Ethan's life. That makes her family." The word hung in the air, family. Nathan hadn't thought of it that way yet, but his father was right. "Tonight, dinner, 7 p.m. Don't be weird about it." "I'm always weird about dinner." "Then be less weird than usual." Richard actually smiled. "I'll try." After his father left, Nathan sat at his desk trying to process what had just happened. His phone buzzed. Clara again. "Change of plans. Sophie's therapist canceled. Can we come earlier, like now?" Nathan checked his watch. 3 p.m. "I'm at the office." "So come home." "I have meetings until 6. Cancel them. You're the boss. Bosses can do that." "That's not how it works?" "Pretty sure it is. I looked it up." Nathan laughed despite himself. "Did you really?" "No, but I could have. Come home, Nathan. We miss you." The simple honesty of it cut through every excuse he had ready. "Give me 30 minutes." He canceled his meetings, ignored his assistant's protests, and drove home in the middle of a workday for the first time in years. The penthouse was warm when he walked in, and he could hear Ethan and Sophie's voices from the pool deck. Clara was in the kitchen making hot chocolate, still wearing her work uniform. She looked up when he entered, smiled. "You actually came." "You asked." "I ask for a lot of things. You don't usually listen." Nathan crossed the kitchen, pulled her close. "Maybe I'm getting better at it." "Don't get too good. I like you stubborn." They kissed, and Nathan felt that same settling feeling he'd felt on the sidewalk months ago, like coming home to a place he didn't know he'd been searching for. "My father wants to have dinner with us," he said when they pulled apart. Clara raised an eyebrow. "The father who called me inappropriate?" He apologized. "To you or to me?" "Both. He'll apologize to you tonight." "This should be interesting." Clara handed him a mug of hot chocolate. Fair warning. Sophie's planning to interrogate him. She's been practicing questions. Of course she has. They joined the kids on the pool deck. Despite the snow falling outside, the heated pool was steaming, and Sophie was doing laps while Ethan timed her with his watch. 43 seconds, Ethan announced. New record. Take that, physical therapy. Sophie pumped her fist. Nathan sat down next to Clara on one of the deck chairs, both of them bundled in coats despite the heaters. She's getting stronger, Nathan observed. Yeah, the doctors think she might walk again, with a cane, but still. Clara's voice was thick with emotion. 6 months ago, they said she'd be in a wheelchair forever. She's tough, like her sister. We're both stubborn idiots. There's a difference. They watched in comfortable silence for a while, Ethan and Sophie racing each other across the pool. The snow was falling harder now, creating a strange contrast between the warm pool and the winter world beyond. Can I ask you something? Clara said quietly. Always. Are you happy? Really happy? Not just better than before happy, but actually happy? Nathan thought about it honestly. Yeah, I think I am. Are you? Terrified, but happy. She leaned her head on his shoulder. I keep waiting for it to fall apart. What if it doesn't? Then I guess I'll have to get used to being happy. Sounds exhausting. Nathan laughed. You're ridiculous. You love it. I really do. Dinner that night was predictably awkward. Richard arrived at exactly 7 p.m. wearing a suit that probably cost more than Clara's car, looking stiff and uncomfortable. Sophie took one look at him and grinned. You're the disapproving father. I've heard about you. Richard blinked. I'm working on being less disapproving. Good. Because Clara's the best thing that's happened to this family, and if you can't see that, you're blind. Sophie, Clara hissed. What? It's true. Ethan, never one to be left out, chimed in. Grandpa, are you going to be nice this time? Dad said you're trying. I am trying, yes. Richard looked genuinely uncomfortable, which Nathan found oddly satisfying. They sat down to dinner, pasta that Clara had made because she insisted on contributing something. The conversation started stilted and formal, but Sophie's relentless questioning slowly broke through Richard's walls. So why did you abandon Nathan after his mom died? Sophie! Clara looked mortified, but Richard answered honestly. Because I didn't know how to handle my own grief, and I was a coward. I failed my son. That's the truth. The table went quiet. Even Sophie seemed taken aback by the blunt admission. Well, she said after a moment, at least you're honest about it. That's something. I'm trying to be better. I'm not very good at it yet. None of us are, Clara said quietly. That's kind of the point. Richard looked at her for a long moment. Nathan said you remind him of his mother. I disagreed at first, but I see it now. She would have liked you. Thank you. I think. It's a compliment. She was the best person I ever knew. The evening continued, slowly becoming less awkward and more real. Richard told stories about Nathan's mother that Nathan had never heard. Clara shared stories about raising Sophie. Ethan and Sophie provided running commentary on everything. By the time Richard left around 10 p.m., something had shifted. He hugged Nathan goodbye. Actually hugged him, not the stiff half-embrace Nathan was used to. Then he turned to Clara. I'm sorry for what I said about you. It was cruel and wrong. Apology accepted. Clara shook his hand. But if you hurt Nathan or Ethan again, Sophie and I will destroy you, just so we're clear. Richard actually smiled. I believe you. After he left, Nathan found Clara on the pool deck staring out at the snow-covered city. That went better than expected, she said. Sophie threatened my father with destruction. I'd call that a win. She's protective. Nathan wrapped his arms around her from behind. So am I. They stood like that for a while, just breathing together. The city glittered below them, 8 million people living their lives, and Nathan felt impossibly grateful to have found this one person in all that chaos. I want to ask you something, he said. If it's about moving in together, the answer's still no. We've been dating for 3 months. It's been 4 months. Still too soon. What if it's not about moving in? Clara turned to face him. Then what is it about? Nathan pulled a small box from his pocket. Clara's eyes went wide. Nathan Sterling, if that's what I think it is, it's not. I mean, it is, but not yet. Just listen. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver key. This is a key to the penthouse. I want you and Sophie to have access whenever you want. No asking permission, no planning ahead. Just come and go as you please. Clara stared at the key. That's not a proposal. No. A proposal comes when we're both ready. This is just me saying that this place is as much yours as it is mine. Your family. You and Sophie both. Family, Clara repeated softly. Yeah. Family. She took the key, closed her hand around it. You're killing me with the slow burn romance here. You know that, right? I'm trying to do it right this time. You're doing fine. She kissed him. Better than fine. The months that followed were messy and beautiful, and nothing like the fairy tale the media tried to make it. Clara still worked her jobs, though she cut back hours as Sophie's physical therapy intensified. Nathan stepped back from some of his CEO duties, promoted his VP, and actually started leaving the office before midnight. Ethan thrived with the expanded family, his therapist noting marked improvement in his anxiety and attachment issues. Sophie started walking with a cane in February, taking her first steps in Nathan's pool with everyone cheering. Maria recovered slowly but steadily, eventually returning to work part-time. She and Clara became friends, bonding over their shared experience of trying to keep Nathan Sterling from working himself to death. The media attention never really died down, but it became background noise. Nathan and Clara learned to ignore the headlines, the speculation, the endless opinions about their relationship. They had something real, and that was all that mattered. On a warm April evening, nearly a year after that first desperate hug on a Manhattan sidewalk, Nathan found himself back in the same spot. He'd planned it carefully, told Clara he needed to show her something downtown, convinced her to walk with him. This is where we met, Clara said when they reached the spot. Why are we here? Because this is where everything started. Nathan took both her hands. A year ago, I was drowning, barely holding on. Then you saw me having a panic attack, and instead of walking away like anyone else would have, you stopped. You helped. You held me together when I was falling apart. Nathan, let me finish. You told me once that you were terrified of needing me. I understood that because I was terrified of needing you too. We've both lost people. We've both learned how to survive alone. But here's what I figured out this year. Needing someone isn't weakness, it's trust. And I trust you, Clara Bennett, more than I've ever trusted anyone. He pulled out a different box this time. The real one. Oh my God, Clara breathed. I'm not asking you to be Rebecca. I'm not trying to replace what I lost. I'm asking you to be exactly who you are. Stubborn and independent and absolutely terrible at accepting help. I'm asking you to build something new with me. Something that's ours. Nathan opened the box. The ring was simple, just a diamond solitaire that reminded him of Clara. Elegant without being flashy, strong without being obvious. Clara Bennett, will you marry me? She was crying, smiling, laughing, all at once. You're doing this here? On the street where you had a panic attack? Felt symbolic. It's insane. Is that a yes? Of course it's a yes, you dramatic idiot. Nathan slid the ring on her finger, kissed her while people passing by applauded. Someone took a photo that would be online in minutes, but neither of them cared. I love you, Clara said against his lips. I love you too. They stood there in the middle of Manhattan, holding each other while the city moved around them, and Nathan felt that same peace from a year ago. That impossible quiet that Clara had given him without meaning to, just by being herself. 6 months later, they got married in a small ceremony at the penthouse with only the people who mattered, Ethan and Sophie, Maria and Richard, a handful of close friends. No media, no spectacle, just family. Clara wore a simple dress she'd picked out herself. Nathan wore a suit that Ethan had helped choose. Sophie served as maid of honor from her wheelchair, giving a speech that made everyone laugh and cry. Ethan was best man, taking his duties incredibly seriously. Richard walked Clara down the makeshift aisle, and Nathan saw tears in his father's eyes when he placed Clara's hand in Nathan's. The vows were short and honest. Nathan promised to love her even when she was being stubborn. Clara promised to love him even when he was being controlling. They both promised to try, to fight for each other, to choose happiness even when it was hard. When they kissed, Ethan and Sophie cheered so loud the neighbors probably heard. The reception was small and perfect. They danced on the pool deck under string lights, ate too much cake, and watched Sophie and Ethan attempt to throw each other in the pool. Later, when the guests had left and Ethan was asleep and Sophie had gone home, Nathan and Clara stood at the window overlooking the city. "So," Clara said, "we're married." "Apparently. How do you feel?" "Happy, terrified, grateful." Nathan pulled her close. "All of it. Same." She looked up at him. "I still can't believe this is real sometimes. That you're real. I'm real. We're real. This is real. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me we'll keep being honest. Keep fighting when we need to fight. Keep choosing each other even when it's hard. I promise. Do you promise the same?" "I promise." They kissed, and Nathan thought about everything that had led them here. The panic attack that had brought them together. The fear that had almost torn them apart. The choice to try anyway, to build something new from the broken pieces of their old lives. He thought about Rebecca, about the love he'd had and lost, and felt grateful instead of guilty. She would have liked Clara, would have told Nathan to stop overthinking and just be happy. He thought about Ethan, asleep down the hall, finally having the stability and love he deserved. About Sophie, walking again despite the odds. About Richard, trying to be a better father and grandfather despite decades of distance. He thought about himself, the person he'd been a year ago, drowning in responsibility and grief and exhaustion, and the person he was now. Still flawed, still struggling sometimes, but learning to accept help, learning to lean on someone else, learning that you could survive loss and still find joy again. "What are you thinking about?" Clara asked. "Everything. Nothing. Us." "That's vague." "I'm thinking that a year ago I was standing on a sidewalk gasping for air, and you saved my life. I gave you a hug. That's not exactly saving someone's life." "It was to me." Nathan kissed her forehead. "You gave me a reason to stop just surviving and start actually living." "Well, when you put it that way, I'm pretty great." "You're impossible." "You love it." "I really do." They stayed at the window until the early hours of the morning, watching the city sleep and wake up again. Somewhere out there, 8 million people were living their own stories, finding their own connections, their own reasons to keep going. Nathan and Clara had found theirs in the most unexpected way. A desperate moment, a simple hug, a willingness to be vulnerable when everything in them screamed to stay closed off. Love, Nathan realized, wasn't about perfection. It wasn't about finding someone who completed you or fixed you or made all your problems disappear. It was about finding someone who saw you at your worst and chose to stay anyway. Someone who challenged you and supported you and drove you crazy in equal measure. It was about choosing each other, again and again, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Clara had fallen asleep against his shoulder, her breathing soft and even. Nathan held her carefully, watching the sun rise over Manhattan, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the desperate, fragile kind that could shatter at any moment. The real kind. The kind that came from knowing that whatever happened next, whatever challenges they faced, they'd face them together. Ethan appeared in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Is Clara still here?" "She's always going to be here, buddy. She's family now." "Good." Ethan climbed onto the couch next to them, fitting himself into the small space. "I like our family." "Me too." They sat there as the city woke up, Nathan, Clara, and Ethan, just 3 people who'd found each other in the chaos and decided to hold on. And when Clara woke up a few minutes later to find both of them watching her, she didn't pull away, or make a joke, or deflect with humor like she might have a year ago. She just smiled and said, "Morning, family." "Morning," Nathance and Ethan replied in unison. Outside, the city moved forward, indifferent and immense. Inside, in a penthouse that had once felt like a mausoleum, 3 people who'd learned how to grieve and survive and love again were building something new. Not perfect, not easy, just real. And sometimes, Nathan thought, real was the best thing you could hope for. The desperate hug that had started everything had taught him that. In your darkest moment, when you're drowning and can't breathe and the world is crushing you, sometimes all you need is someone willing to hold on. Clara had held on when he couldn't hold himself together. Now they were holding on to each other. And that, Nathan decided, was more than enough. It was everything.